Okay, so hello everybody and welcome to October's Moving Occupational Therapists Community of Practice session. So today we're joined by Clare McShane. Clare is going to talk to us about physical activity promotion and creating opportunities within an inpatient setting. Clare actually qualified at the beginning of 2024. She worked in mental health community rehab settings to begin with, but then she moved into a role at Signet Health, which was a high dependency complex care service for men with learning disabilities. That happened at the beginning of this year, so she's just coming up for a year in her role, which is very exciting. And she's going to talk to us today about a group that she set up within that setting. So thank you for joining us, Clare, and I'll let you get started.
Thank you. So I'm going to attempt to share again.
We tried this earlier and it somewhat worked, so we're keeping our fingers crossed.
It's going to work. It's going to be.
It is. Yes.
Here we go. Okay, obligatory. Can you see the slides question?
We can.
I can't see you, so if you give me thumbs up or something, I can't. I can't see you. All I can see is the slides.
It's so good, Clare. We can see them. Yeah.
Okay. So so as Lisa said, I'm going to be talking about delivering a physical activity interventions within a high dependency complex care setting. I'll start by telling you a little bit about our service, so you get a bit of an understanding of the context in which we were delivering this intervention. And then I'll talk about what we delivered, how we delivered it, what we saw and what feedback we got in terms of patient engagement, their experience, and the skills that were practiced and developed within the group. And then within that, I'll talk about also the things that we learned along the way, how we adapted the group, how we changed it, and then from the group, how we've incorporated that and other physical activity opportunities into the regular therapy programme as well. So that's what I'm going to aim to cover. So this is our setting. We're, as I said, a high dependency service for men with learning disabilities and complex needs called Signet Manor. We're based in Derbyshire. So this is our front door. This is what our building looks like. And it's sunny on that day in Shirebrook. So we're a high dependency setting. All of the men that we work with have a primary diagnosis of learning disability. And then in terms of those complex needs, for those that aren't familiar with this sort of service, it may be that that the men we're working with have another neurodivergent diagnosis, such as autism or ADHD. They might have mental health diagnoses, history of communicating through risk behaviours, and also a variety of physical health needs as well. So within the setting, we have up to 20 patients. Many of our patients are detained under the Mental Health Act, and have a real sort of variety in terms of learning disability presentation, what those additional needs are, physical health concerns, mental health needs, a real variety of communication styles and communication needs, and from an occupational therapy perspective as well, a real variety in terms of what people are interested in, what their preferences are. And so when we were looking at creating this group, it was really trying to create something that would be accessible for all of the patients within the setting, and having one group that everyone could join in with if they wanted to. So to give you an idea of what our setting looks like, these are our available spaces for running a group like this. So can you see my mouse there? So this top picture in the top right is our garden area. It looks a little bit different from that. So this is not there now. So there's a bit more of a space. And these tables and chairs, we can move these. So when we ran the group in the garden area, we would move these tables and chairs out of the way. So this would create a reasonable space in this area that we could run if we were able to run the group outdoors. As you can see, there are ground floor windows here and here. So in terms of risk, it was, although we did run the group a lot in this area, kind of doing it within sort of taking into account that there are windows here and kind of managing that that risk. Through this gate here, we have another garden area, but we have a basketball court behind this building through this gate. So it's about a half-sized basketball court with an AstroTurf area. So we did utilise that area sometimes as well. And then these other two pictures are our indoor areas. So this one on the left is what we call our calf bar. So we've got the pool table in there, and then we've got a little bit of floor space. So it's not a huge space, but it's big enough to run a chair-based exercise session. It's big enough to run a bit of an aerobics session. And it's big enough to run resistance training. So you can do quite a bit, we found, in quite a small space. So you don't need huge amounts of room to run a group like this. It's one of the things that we learned. And then this space down at the bottom right, this is our lounge area. So it looks a little bit different from this now. It's now got wooden flooring, the same as the cafe bar, rather than carpeted. But again, there's quite a bit of floor space here. We didn't often use this space because of people using it for other things. You can see there's a TV up on the wall here. So it's kind of running the group within communal spaces, but also allowing space for the people that didn't want to be part of the group. But this area is available for us as well. So it's really sort of being creative with the space that we'd got, and with what we could run, and actually really found you can do a lot with you don't need kind of huge playing fields and things like that. You can do a lot in reasonable sized spaces. So the group intervention itself, and how we came up with that and how we designed that. So the first thing was the name. Called it Let's Get Active. I'd done some research previously as part of my masters, and one of the things that came from that and some of the other research was that if you put the word exercise into a group, it can often put people off. People can feel like, oh, that's not for me, or I can't exercise, I don't like exercise. So deliberately left the word exercise out of it. Physical activity can feel a little bit more accessible for people from what we found, but also it can also have the same sort of responses that, oh, I don't think I can do that, I don't like it. So not giving it that name was a deliberate decision. So we called it Let's Get Active. So it's got that kind of let's just give it a go feel about it. So we'd identified a need for the group. We are an inpatient hospital setting, so it can be quite a sedentary environment, and we also know that people with learning disabilities are at high risk of physical health comorbidities that are avoidable. So things like high blood pressure, obesity, type 2 diabetes, things that can really be helped by being active and moving a little bit more. So that need was definitely there. We have a therapeutic activity programme, and so it was finding a space in that programme when the group could be delivered. So worked with the activity coordinators around when that would work best, and based that on what we knew about engagement. So we know, for example, that Monday mornings can be a little bit sleepy, and kind of people just getting into the week, so doing something a little bit steadier and not trying to get people out kicking a ball on a Monday morning, but where in the week would this group work, where would it get the most interest, but also where would it be good in terms of regulation for the patients as well. So we found the right space in the programme when it could be delivered, and then who were the right people to deliver it. So to begin with, it was run by me. and by the other OT in the service, and also our activity coordinators as well. So we facilitated the group all together, and then support staff were really participated in the group as well. And then eventually the group now is run by activity coordinators and support staff. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But we started it as an OT-led group with activity coordinators facilitating it as well. And then once we got kind of the basics of the group, then it was looking at what we wanted within the group profile. So we started it off with an education session, which we called Let's Get Talking, just to keep it on the theme of the group. And for that, we did a presentation, which I've put all of these are the slides that we used for the presentation. So that was delivered in the CAF bar. We had hot drinks available for people, fruit to snack on, and made it kind of a bit of a social opportunity to learn a bit more and talk a bit more about physical activity. So these are the topics that we talked about. What is physical activity, why we should do physical activity, what it's good for, how it can help with regulation, how it can help us feel more tired and help us to sleep, and the impact it can have on things like confidence and sense of achievement. We talked about the physical health reasons for doing physical activity, and then what the recommendations are for how much physical activity we should do, to help people to get an understanding of how much is needed to have the best impact on your physical health, and then an idea of how you could spread it over the week. So just sort of make it clear it's not about doing 2.5 hours straight of physical activity, but kind of putting it in bite-sized chunks or whatever works through the week. And then there was a bit of a discussion group at the end of that for the patients at that group to think about how active were they now, whether they want to be more active, what are the barriers that might be stopping them, and what could they do, what ideas did they have about how they could be more active. So that presentation was delivered by the activity coordinators, and they got sort of good engagement with that around people just wanting to learn and talk about their experiences. And then it was deciding what activities we were going to include in the session. So to begin with, I planned out 6 weeks of different activities so that we could test the group and see what worked, what didn't work, what people liked, what they didn't like. So we just planned that 6 weeks to start with. So these are the activities that we offered. So we based these on some existing interests. We knew from what we knew about patients already, we knew that there was some existing interest in football, cricket, basketball, because we had the basketball court that we knew who used that and whether there was much interest in that. We knew we had patients who were interested in cricket. We had some interest in the past in chair aerobics, so we mixed that up a little bit with the dice aerobics session, and then we put a multi-sports sort of game session in there as well. So it was based on what we knew people's existing interests were, and what we thought might be good to try, what we thought might be good from a skills perspective in terms of skills that we thought would be helpful for people to work on as well, and put those sessions together. So this on the right is the dice aerobics session. So we have big foam dice, which were really cheap online. You roll the dice. Once that tells you which exercise you're going to do. So if you roll a 5, you're doing toe touchers, and then you roll the dice again to see how many of those you're going to do. So just turning that into sort of a bit of a game, and getting people going with that, or what do you want to come up, what do you not want to come up, and just trying to make it as much fun as we could. The football session was a mix of football skills. So we used the flat sort of flat cones, and did football skills, dribbling, passing to one another, choosing who you were going to pass to and saying what their name is before you pass to them. So you'd got that kind of decision making, the deliberate skill of where you're going to kick the ball, kicking it in the direction that you wanted to, and also that interaction between the people in the group as well. And we did similar with the basketball group as well. The cricket group, we actually got an outside provider to come in and run that. So we got the Derbyshire Cricket Foundation to come in and run that. So it's really worth in your areas looking to see if any of the sports clubs do offer disability sessions, and quite often if they do, they will offer kind of free tasters, which is what this was. So we didn't have to pay for that. They came in and ran a free cricket taster session. And so even if that's not then something they can do regularly, you can pick up from them what they did and how they did that. And so that becomes a session that you can run yourself. And it does get a different kind of engagement if we found that by getting someone from outside in, it just helped. We ran that as either session 3 or 4, and it just helped to keep that kind of interest in the new group by getting someone new and interesting that wasn't the people that patients see all the time to come and run that. So that one went really well. The rounder session we actually haven't run yet. So that, because of the space that we've got, that is one that relies on being able to go out and run that. And so it's about being able to do that at the right time with the right group and the weather to be right. And so that's one of the lessons that we really learned. The outdoor session, the outside sessions that are away from the hospital are great to run, but it can be a little bit of a barrier to be able to run that at the time that you plan to run it. So trying to create those opportunities within the setting and then making the most of it when you can get outside the setting to do things as well, and talk a little bit more about that later. And then the multi-sports games session, we use things like the big parachutes with a football on top, and playing with the football on the parachute, and we use these flat cones a lot. So I've got these on the next slide. So these flat cones at the bottom, we use these a lot, and we did the variety of games with these, putting them out in all sorts of different orders, and you get the red ones, I'll get the blue ones, and that sort of problem solving and the competition of picking them up, and obviously the movement involved in that as well. So they were the main sessions that we tried within the first sort of run of the group. The equipment that we had, so we had some things already. So we had footballs and basketballs already. If it's not suitable to use usual footballs and basketballs, you can get foam versions. So if you are in a setting where using the kind of heavier footballs and basketballs it is too much of a risk, then you can get foam ones as well. And a lot of the equipment that we got was foam and was lightweight. We found that things were very affordable, so obviously not spending too much on the equipment was important, but you can get things quite affordably, getting things that are durable and weren't going to break the first time we used them, and getting things that were accessible as well. So things that weren't too heavy, things that are sort of quite easy to grip, and bearing in mind that risk as well. So say you can get sort of foam footballs, these baseball rounders bats were foam and lightweight, and then it may be that you in your setting you need to do you would do things like counting these cones in and out, and these are really light as well, the dice. So there's lots of kind of lightweight foam equipment you can get if that's something that you need. The cricket equipment as well, we use soft cricket equipment, so again sort of quite lightweight. We weren't using proper cricket balls. We were using we were using leather cricket balls. We were using soft cricket balls, soft cricket bats. So it's all a little bit lightweight, which helps with them being easier to use, but also helps with that risk element if that's something you need to consider in your setting as well. So when we came to delivering the sessions, I had planned in advance where we were going to deliver them, but we didn't always deliver them according to the plan. So some of the sessions were delivered indoors. So the dice exercises session we actually did in that calf bar space that I showed, and yeah, it was quite amazing what we could do in that space with the dice exercises. And because we've got chairs in there as well, so all of the exercises in that session could either be done standing or seated. So we got chairs in there that we could use for seated options as well. Quite a few of the sessions we ran outdoors. So the football session, the basketball sessions, the multi-sports. So we did start running this over the summer, and we were really lucky most weeks with the weather. So we were able to run those sessions in outdoors, and we are lucky to have some good outdoor spaces to be able to do that. One of the biggest lessons we found was originally I'd planned to use the basketball court for all of the outdoor sessions, but we didn't do that in the end. We used the basketball court for the basketball session, but otherwise we ran all the outdoor sessions in the garden space, and that was because it is a communal space that the patients can come in and out of, because of where the basketball court is, through the gate on that picture. The patients will go with staff down to the basketball court, whereas the garden, the patients can wander in and out of that as they chose, and the same with the cafe bar as well. So, and we found using those accessible communal spaces that patients can choose, do I want to be here, do I not, am I ready to leave, and they can come and go without having to ask staff. That seemed to really help with engagement. So we moved all of the sessions, all of the outdoor sessions, then into the garden. So the people who attended the sessions, obviously we had the patients attending, but involving staff was really, really helpful as well. Our staff here are great and would really get involved and join in, and that really, really helped with engagement as well, for people to see what staff were doing, that staff were enjoying it, and staff interacting with the patients as well. And then, as I mentioned, having an outside provider to come in, if you're able to find someone, that went down really well with the cricket session. So what we found with engagement, experience and skills, we had attendance at the group every time, which is a real success. Obviously people only have to come to the groups that they really want to come to, and you don't always know whether you know, some weeks people just might not fancy it. So getting some attendance every time was great. Sometimes we would start the group with just staff, so patients might not be quite sure whether they wanted to join in today, and that's absolutely fine. So we would just start the group anyway, in the communal garden, and we found that just starting it with any staff that we'd got, just starting to set it up, then would kind of get that interest, and people would come and look and see what we were doing, and then start to get involved. So yeah, really not, oh well, I don't want to do it, or I'm not sure about it, not letting that put you off, just getting the group started and see what happens. Which links into this next point about passive and active engagement. So we would quite often, patients would come and just have a bit of a look. Oh, I'm not sure that I'll like it. I don't think I can do it. That sort of lack of confidence about being able to join in or practice the skill that we were using. But by having it in those communal areas so they could just see what we were doing, really helped them, people, to feel like they could give it a go, or oh yeah, maybe I will give it a try, or you know, the ball would roll over to where they were sitting and they'd throw the ball back, and just kind of getting that active engagement in a different way, that wasn't coming to the group and doing exactly the the skills that we were practicing, just being around the group and joining in whatever way that they wanted to. So that we really saw that kind of transition from starting as a sort of passive engagement, I'll come and watch, to really getting involved. And we saw that at most groups we saw some elements of that. In terms of the skills that we saw that we were practicing, so obviously we've got coordination, dribbling footballs, passing to one another, that hand-eye coordination in a lot of those multi-sports games, balance, concentration, whether that was concentration in terms of the tasks that we were doing, or attention for the length of the group. So that was the other thing that we learned, not having too many expectations about how long the group was going to be, but really allowing that to be patient-led, setting up the group, getting it started, having an idea of the max time that we'd got available for the group, but then otherwise letting it be patient-led about how long people wanted to engage for, at what point to switch up the activity. Following the instructions, kind of understanding what we were doing in the game or in the activity, being able to sequence those tasks, turn taking, sharing the equipment. So we might have 2 footballs available for a group of 5 of us. So that kind of turn taking, waiting to have your go, and those social skills of joining in with each other. And we really saw a lot of patient encouragement, people really encouraging one another and celebrating one another, kind of joining in and being really good at the physical activity. You know, we saw people really enjoyed it. People really enjoyed it and really were able to recognise that they were good at it. So we, there's a fire alarm test if you just heard that. So we would obviously give positive feedback, but we found that patients really were able to say, oh, actually I did really well at that. I'm good at that skill, which is amazing in this environment, to see people going, oh yeah, actually I'm really good at that and I enjoyed that. Being able to identify their own strengths and go away from the group having a real sense of achievement. So what we've done to keep physical activity on the programme. So as I said, I led the group for about 6 weeks, whether that was me running the group or it being the from the group profile that I'd written. And then we found that it worked so well. Patients really enjoyed it and got a lot from it. So we kept it on the programme. So it's still part of our therapeutic activity programme several months later. It's now led by the activity coordinators and support staff. So that's delivered weekly. A combination of delivering similar sorts of sessions to the ones that we did as part of the initial 6 weeks, but also taking it out into community. When we can do that, patients have been out cycling to local places where we can hire bikes from. They've been to a foot golf place where you can play foot golf that's quite local. Things like the golf driving range as well. So taking it out and doing other activities in community where that's possible. We've also reviewed our therapeutic activity programme to ensure that it provides the opportunity to participate in at least 150 minutes of physical activity per week. So that's the Department of Health recommendation for everyone, that we get 2.5 hours of some form of physical activity. So we wanted to make sure that, having recommended to patients that that's what they do, that we do as much as we can to facilitate that. So there's this physical activity group which is continuing. There's walking groups and other activities in the programme to make sure that people have those opportunities in addition to anything kind of self-led that they might do. So some patients will use a local gym and things like that. So, but just making sure within that programme there's at least that 2.5 hours. We've also recently added a resistance training session into the programme. So that's in addition to this physical activity group. We are very lucky to have a support worker who is also trained as a personal trainer. So I know for a lot of services, having a personal trainer come in would be would maybe be too costly a thing to do. So we're very lucky to have him able to come in and deliver those sessions. But he does that with resistance bands. So and when we purchase those, they do come with quite good instructions of the exercises that you can do with them. So I would say that I would recommend that as something that you can do with people, just with those instructions. What we found with the resistance training group is that works really well, having a group, a time for the group allocated, but then doing it with sort of one, maybe two people maximum at a time. So maybe someone will have an hour, and someone will do 5 minutes, someone will do 10 minutes, 15 minutes max, depending on what their ability is and how long they want to do it for, what their interest is in it. And really encouraging people to start off light. So it's one of the things we learned with that, just start off light and build up from there. Quite often we found people wanted to see how heavy they can possibly lift. So yeah, just encouraging people to start off low and work from there. But that seems to be really popular with the men here as well. And then part of the plan, which is ongoing, is also to create an information and ideas board on the ward. So that's working with our speech and language therapists here, so we can make sure that that information is accessible, is in a way that that the men here would be able to engage with. And so on there we'll have the 150 minutes, this is what the recommendation is, and ideas about what they might be able to do that's self-led. So one of the ideas is that I'll measure how many steps it is to do a lap of the garden, and have things like that on there, so we can say if you do 10 laps of the garden, it's this number of steps. So, or if you go for a local walk, this walk is this far, so that people have a bit of an idea of what they can do that's a bit more self-led, and giving that, encouraging that agency around this as well as using the groups and the things we've got on the programme. And that's it. Any questions, any comments, ideas? I think we were thinking, yeah, just a bit of a chance to sort of talk about it, if there's anything anyone wants to ask or share.
Thank you so much, Claire. That was wonderful to hear more about the group, and just thinking about, I mean, I have lots of questions, so I might just ask a question quickly while people have a think. Feel free, everybody, to unmute or to drop questions into the chat. I was wondering around the other staff who were involved in the group. Sometimes we see people being a little bit either reticent to join in, or, as you said, with the participants, some people didn't want to join in at first. Did you get a sense of that from the staff as well, or was everybody really on board? I'm just kind of trying to think what that might look like in different services and how you experienced that.
Yeah, we are really lucky. Our staff were just on it. Yeah, they just got involved. Yeah, so we didn't have any any reluctance at all to get involved. But yeah, I guess I don't know, would the same thing work? Just set it up. Just set it up and get them involved. We do a lot of work here around that kind of active engagement with people. So it's kind of just inbuilt here that people do just get
almost of your role.
Get involved. So yeah,
that's really good that is the case, because I think sometimes there is that aspect of participants feeling like, I'm not a sporty person and therefore I might not engage, and that might be the same for staff as well. If we don't identify maybe that we're particularly sporty, and then somebody brings along opportunities that we don't feel confident to engage in, that could be an interesting one.
I think because we had it as, so those little cones. I don't know what you call them. I call them sort of little flat cone things, but I think setting up things like that and saying, oh, we'll just dribble the ball around that, rather than let's have a game of football, let's have a game of basketball. I think it takes that. We didn't put a lot of competitive element into it. It was more about, what can you do? Are you having a good time? So we didn't have that, are you any good at this? We tried sort of, it was more, let's give it a go and have some fun and keep it sort of light. And I think that helped.
Focusing on that movement rather than it being competitive sport or exercise. I think that's a good way to do it.
And quite straightforward things like shout who you're going to pass it to and pass it to them. And it made it quite fun. Sometimes we put music on, we do sort of a musical statues sort of game with the football as well. So we made it much more kind of about having fun and having a laugh, rather than how many goals can you score, how many. So it was just that, rather than it being, are you any good at this? I'm trying to keep that a bit more out of it.
Brilliant, thank you. And Jake, I can see you've got your hand up. Did you have a question or comment?
Hi, I was just going to ask about sort of the process of handing it over, and I guess I've found that you can sort of start something and you have your own passion, and as long as you're involved, it sort of has legs. But then the second you're sort of one step removed, like sort of groups and interventions can sort of just die. So I just wondered if you could just touch on the sort of process of handing it over, delegating it, and how much sort of oversight you kept.
So running it with the activity coordinator straight away didn't really help with that. So it wasn't, I ran it and now I'm going to give it to you. We ran it together from the start. I involved them in the planning of the group as well, and what activities we were going to do. They've both worked here for a long time, so they know a lot about what people are interested in and what they thought that people would like. So involving the activity coordinators and planning it, so it doesn't feel like I've created this and now can you run it please. And then when we did deliver it, kind of delivering it together, and then I talked to them about handing it over and what that might look like. Did they think that we should keep it in the therapeutic activity program? Did they think that it would maintain engagement? And then we would talk about, even though I'd handed over the kind of running of it, we would still talk about the group, what's going to be happening with it this week. They knew that they could talk to me about what session to run, or just keeping a real sort of dialogue with the people running it. I don't know if I did anything else. Don't know if that helps. I guess it's so personality dependent sometimes, isn't it? And whether you get the buy-in from the other people. And I guess it's if you've got someone else. So we're really lucky, as I said, to have a support worker who is also a personal trainer. So if you've got someone that you know is interested in this sort of thing, get them involved in it if you can, rather than it being role specific. Maybe if you know there's someone that's into this sort of thing, then they're the one to go to help keep the passion behind it.
Thank you.
All right.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jake. Ali, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Claire. Just wondering, did you find that there was new friendships that were made through this activity? And also, was there a lot of peer support, peer motivation?
Yeah, so the patients kind of knew each other quite well anyway, but I think what we did see is that patients that maybe wouldn't always interact with each other did interact in this group. So it brought different patients together that maybe wouldn't have always done activities together before, kind of that more sort of direct interaction between them. And we saw a lot of patient support. So celebrating one another, also encouraging one another to have a go. So if one person was really into it and someone else was a bit more reticent and on the sidelines, we saw a lot of patient kind of, oh, come and go on, have a go, you can do it, like just give it a try, and showing one another. And it was great to see. Yeah.
Thank you.
Brilliant. And Nat, do you have a question?
Sorry, just getting all the screen down, microphone on. Thanks, Claire. Mine might be a really naughty question, so excuse me. It might be a bit of a personal, well, a professional gain, I promise. Just to put context, I'm Nat. I am an OT, but I'm also a golf club manager. So you might get where this is going to go now. I couldn't help but spring up my ears. Of course, when you mentioned bringing in the other local activities and physical and sporting activities around you via the golf driving range and foot golf that we have too. So at the moment, I've got 6 physio students actually on the call, and they're on placement with me at the moment. And we're really trying to sort of use golf, you know, as that therapeutic medium, as a physical activity to benefit the health and well-being, you know, not just of my members and visitors, but when we're looking at, you know, the general public and local community need. And a lot of the students are involved in obviously golf-related projects and physical activity, from golf injury and prevention, etc., etc. I'll fast forward now to my question. We're also trying to look at other things, you know, not just the physical activity element. Of course, we all know the mental health benefits of golf as a sport, and in particular the great outside and outdoors. And I've been really trying to look at bringing in and making it more accessible to mental health, learning disabilities, etc., etc., not just the MSK or neuro conditions. And I do have members with strokes, I do have members with dementia. I've got one member, with a learning difficulty. Anyway, I've been desperately trying to get hold of sort of trying to work with local voluntary and charity sectors and organisations like your own. And I don't think you're far from me, because I'm A38 in the East Midlands. And I'm just wondering if you've got any services like yours near me that we could reach out to, because I'd love to offer my golf course as a service, you know, like what you're doing to bring in all those different people to access golf, including those with learning disabilities. I'm sorry that was long-winded.
Yes. No, and I think a really short answer. Yes, I'm sure. Yeah, it would be great to hear more about it. So yeah, do get, I think my contact details are somewhere in the slides, and or Lisa has them. So yeah, do get in touch with us. I think the thing I didn't mention is around sort of the benefits that physical activity, and including things like golf, have for self-regulation, from a sort of sensory feedback point of view. You know, kicking a ball can be a real self-regulating activity. Whacking a golf ball can be a real sort of satisfying self-regulating activity. So yeah, the short answer is yes, let us know and we can have a conversation and share it with other OTs. Some of our other OTs are also on the call, so you can share the information with them as well. We've got a few services in the sort of this East Midlands area.
That's brilliant, and I love to see these connections developing. If there are other areas where maybe you're not in the East Midlands that you've joined us today, do feel free to reach out to us, because I feel like there are connections that we have across the country where, you know, I know of quite inclusive golf clubs, for example, in the northeast, who we could probably link people in with. So please do feel free to reach out to us. There probably are similar organisations who are looking to partner kind of across different sports and across different geographical areas. So if you're looking for something like that, please do get in touch with us. We do have a question from Christina that she's popped in the Q&A section. Did you have any experience with any clients living with obesity and the possible challenges your team had to adapt to so they could benefit from the physical activity? That's a really interesting one, Claire.
Yes. Yeah, and it's really just about, I think, is making the activity something that you can do at any sort of level. So having them sort of quite sort of gentle options, walking options, so we're not requiring people to kind of be able to run around loads or doing those seated activities. Just getting people moving might have to be the focus to start with, watching that, kind of not doing things that do raise people's heart rates too much. So that's something that we've had to consider, not keeping it at a level that wasn't pushing people too far. So yeah, starting off quite gentle, having those chair based. I think things like with the resistance group, using that approach of maybe you need to do let's just do this with you for 10 minutes. If there's sort of a confidence issue with coming into a group and trying something in front of other people, having that option to, well, we're doing the group, but we can do it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes at the end, and having it in that communal space so people can just come and have a look, and it's not you're in the group or you're not. It is, you can come and have a look, maybe you give it a little go, now you've had enough, you can leave without having to say, can I leave now? Or so it gives people that kind of freedom to come and go. I think helps people to feel like, oh, I can give it a go. And yeah, having that sort of freedom of choice, I think, helped people to get involved. I don't know if that answers the question or not.
Hopefully, Christina, that does answer the question. Let us know if not. Feel free to unmute or to type into the chat. But I really think that's a really good point, Claire, that a lot of physical activity opportunities are for a specific amount of time, aren't they? If you go to a gym and go to a class, the class is for a certain amount of time, and if you don't feel like you're at the point where you can manage that amount of physical activity yet, you're automatically going to go, no, I can't, I don't feel able to join in, because you don't want to walk out halfway through. That would be unexpected within that group. So I think that's a really good point, making it okay to join in for as much or as little as
and we would
to
do things like have different, so we'd have different little activities within the session, so you could just do one, or you could just have one go at one, and it wouldn't seem like you were leaving halfway through. You'd had your go and now you were going. So it's not like leaving a game halfway through and now the teams are uneven, or so making it something that you can just come and go from without it being a sort of a big deal. Yeah, so how you design those activities as well.
I'm just having a check through the chat. I have posted some of the physical activity guidance in there, just in case people are interested, because I know Claire had mentioned that in her presentation, and these are really useful things if you're looking to, for example, back up why you might need to include physical activity as part of your service provision. If you're talking to commissioners or service managers and you're thinking we'd like to develop something, you can reference these as something that you can use to back up the need for it. I've also just noticed in the chat, so Daisy was saying around how people move from being quite passive in maybe engaging in physical activity, so they might be watching to begin with, and then that moving along a bit of a continuum as they become more confident. So I don't know whether that's something that you were aware of, Claire. I know you touched on that in the presentation.
Yeah, I did use sneaky strategies as well, like the ball accidentally rolling to where someone was sat, and getting them to kick it back, even if they were still sat in their chair, kick it back or pass it or throw it back. Or so yeah, we did use some sort of deliberate strategies as well. But yeah, exactly that, just watching and then coming and having a go. Yeah, exactly what Daisy said.
Isn't it?
Yeah, and just developing that interest and seeing that other people are doing it enables them to think, oh, actually, maybe I might be able to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Nat?
So sorry, this is a quick one. It's just I've seen the chat. I think it's Daisy has really kindly offered to make connections nearby me, and for some reason my chat function's disabled. I can love her and heart her and emoji her, but I can't write in the chat. So I wanted to think I was ignoring her.
No, don't worry. I can pass on, Daisy, if
Thank
you're happy
you.
for me to pass on your email address, I can pass that on to Nat for you. So yes, sorry, I don't know why that is the case. Interesting that you can't, do that. Honestly, these tech gremlins today.
Seems to doing its own thing today. I can
It
see
is,
that
isn't it?
Jenna's asked about keeping curling and boccia sessions interesting. I don't know if you mean those sessions or the hour session. Yeah, I don't know much about curling. Yeah, Lisa might be able to answer that actually. But I think we really found using games, short, sharp, short, sharp games, 3 or 4 different variations of something within the session. Putting music on, using music. That's the musical statues type approach was quite fun. So yeah, just introducing different things like that.
I don't know whether, Jenna, you've been on the Boccia Leaders course that Boccia England run, but they have quite a few different training sessions where they'll introduce, yes, the sport of boccia, but also just different games that you can do with the boccia equipment. So that might be something to look into. Again, reach out to us if that's something you'd like us to kind of connect you into, and they do have training sessions kind of around the country, so that might be something to look into, just about how can we keep that interesting and exciting, because some people are very competitive and will just play, but at the same time sometimes it's nice to bring a few new games out, potentially have a few different pieces of equipment maybe that challenge them a little bit to do something different. So yeah, feel free to send me a message. I'm just having a quick look through the chat, see if there's anything else that I've missed. I did also put in there a few little reflection points just after those physical activity guidance documents that I posted. So just for us to reflect on, thinking about your own practice, whether there's any opportunities to create more physical activity opportunities within your practice. So these were some of the questions that Claire had thought of to kind of prompt discussion about the presentation. So how might you create those opportunities within your own practice? Has this session changed your views about the possibility of being able to include physical activity? Was there anything in the presentation that surprised you? So yeah, just having a think about those, maybe doing a quick reflection afterwards and just thinking, is this something that I could then apply in my own practice? But that has brought us to within a minute. We're on time today. I like this. It's I'm not always the best timekeeper in the world, but yeah, today we seem to have kept to time, so that's fantastic. If anybody does have any final questions, please do let us know. You can always contact us as well. So I'll circulate, if Claire's happy for me to circulate the presentation slides, that I'll have her details on. Brilliant. And my email is lisa@sportforconfidence.com if you ever want to get in touch. So yeah, I think we're pretty much done. I'll just stop the recording.